All right, I'm back to finish off my review of PM2, starting right where I left off. And first card to look at here is going to be Phyrexian Ironworks. 9 mana, 3 shields, red, support card artifact. When a creature you control attacks, energize 1, overload 2, create a Phyrexian Golem token. So, really going to be the most useful um, application for this card is emergency ordinances, especially the red node, because until they give us any new events that have energize as any sort of uh, thing that you have to build around, I just can't see energize being something that you want to really use in standard at all. So, um, yeah, these are going to be very niche cards. Um, I don't know if I haven't really seen a lot in PM2 yet that makes me want to use Energize again in standard, so I don't know. We'll see. Polluted Delta, okay, it's one of these support card lands. Yeah, that's we already talked about these. Psychic Frog, this is an interesting card. 7 mana, 1/2 menace, creature, frog. It's got blue and black, so it's a dual color PMA card. When this creature deals combat damage, draw a card. When you discard a card from your hand, this creature gets +2/+2. When a card is exiled from your graveyard, this creature gets +1/+1. Now that's where it gets kind of interesting. So I don't know if this creature is really worth building around, but you can. Angel of Suffering, you play Cease on yourself, and you're going to be exiling your graveyard. And there's a couple other cards that will do that for you, but um, the +1/+1, I bet you can get that huge, but we'll just have to see if anyone is willing to do that. I'll probably give it a go when I'm mastering this card if I get it, but um, when you discard a card from your hand, this creature gets +2/+2. That's also relevant if you're playing, those cards in blue that will discard and draw for you. There's a few of them around right now, even in standard. So this card might be worth having a little fun with building around, but we'll see if anybody actually does that. Quest for the Necropolis. Support card enchantment, 4 shields for 8 mana. It's got corrupt. Landfall, corrupt 3 gems. Okay. Then pick one of the first 4 cards from your graveyard and fetch that card. Okay. Um yeah. Landfall corrupting 3 gems. That could be pretty interesting. So obviously going to want to put this in a green black deck, I think, to make sure you get a lot of landfalls. But you could do this in the Healer of the Pride deck as well. You're going to be creating landfalls from all the enlist gems you're making as well. So, yeah, if you want to use this card to make a lot of improved and corrupted gems, I think there's an easy way of doing that. So, kind of an interesting card. Rawl in the Implicit Maze. Okay, so I have high hopes for this card, but it is currently bugged. Um, So draw a card. This card gains X mana. X is the number of spell cards in your graveyard. So when I was trying this card and using it with Inexorable Tide, it would continuously go back to the first chapter, even when triggering it with proliferating. So I couldn't get it to loop for that reason. But if they ever do fix it, then this is going to be a really good looping enabler. So this is a problem. Deal 2 damage to each opposing creature. If they don't have an opposing creature on the board, then I think this won't venture to the next chapter. So that's the problem. Or if they don't have a Vanguard support to lose 2 shields. So if this first condition isn't met, then it won't continuously trigger the next chapter. It shouldn't go back to the first chapter regardless, but I don't know. Um, Hopefully they're looking into it. I did report this as a bug, so we'll see what they say. Reckless Pyro Surfer. When this creature attacks, ignite 2 gems. Okay. Landfall, your creatures get +3/+1. Okay. It's alright. It's a very kind of niche place you're going to be using this. I think if you're really building around ignite gems, then this card is, I guess, viable. The landfall, depending on what kind of deck you're building, depending on what type of deck you're building, maybe that's more relevant than other things, but I just don't see that being a big deal. Ripples of Undeath. You can see I already started playing with this card. 13 mana support card, enchantment, 3 shields. At the end of your turn, destroy the first 7 cards of your opponent's library, then draw a card. Mill 20. At the beginning of your turn, gain 10 loyalty. So, Angrath, Valiana, those are both going to be cards. Those are both going to be planeswalkers that you put this card in. But, you know, any black planeswalker that you're going to be. I think this is relevant for most black planeswalkers, right? Yeah, definitely a good card. So far, I've been enjoying it. I probably should try it in more decks, but I just have other ways of gaining loyalty right now. But if those ever rotate out, then this card will still be around for me to use. So yeah, very good card. I've yet to use it in a lot more mono black decks, just because I haven't really been playing with mono black very often lately, but definitely a card I like having. Roshin, Roaring Prophet. This is another one that I picked up and haven't played around with. 20 mana, it's only a 4/4, but at the beginning of your turn, destroy the top X cards of your library. X is half the number of red and green gems on the board, rounded down. Then for each creature card destroyed this way, you gain 2 mana. At the end of your turn, drain all mana from your hand, then deal Y damage to each non-token creature into your opponent's planeswalker. Y is the amount of mana drained this way. So there's a lot that I still need to do, obviously, to test it out and see exactly how it works. Is it going to make you drain all mana from your hand, or do you get a chance to choose not now on it? And I also want to see just how many cards am I going to be destroying with this creature, and then therefore how much mana I get from it. I don't think it's going to be a lot, but you know, we'll see. The fact that it's dual color, it's red as well. I don't know how much that matters at the end of the day. I'm not usually self-milling in red. I don't usually have a reason for that, but that doesn't mean there's not a reason to use it. Oh, of course, Ren and 7. This is going to be a good one to pair with Ren and 7 for that reason. So, yeah. So, maybe worth playing around with. I'll have to see. If it forces you to drain all mana from your hand every turn, then I probably won't like this card that much. He might be a good finisher, maybe, but if you're going to be doing that with him, then he's not going to be, the part where you're destroying cards from your library isn't going to be as relevant. So, yeah, I'll need to test and see just how useful he really is. Scurry of Gremlins. 15 mana, support, 4 shields, white and red. When this support enters the board, create X gremlin tokens. X is equal to your loyalty. Okay, then energize Y. Y is the number of creatures you control, including their reinforcements. Wow. Overload 1, creatures you control get +1/+0. So that's actually a pretty good card, I think. Because you're going to be creating gremlin tokens first, and then you're going to be energizing, and the amount of gremlins should be taken into account there. So What are the gremlins actually? Are they two twos or one ones? They're two twos, so that's actually pretty good. So um, you can max get a 60 gremlin stack there. So this is a good card. Equal to your loyalty. You're likely going to have some amount of loyalty when you cast this. Um, Pair this with Golden Wish. That's going to easily get your loyalty counter to the max. And then you're just going to be energizing and gremlinizing your entire world there. So, yeah, that's a good card. Shield Gengar, Sire of Famine. An Elder Demon, 17 mana with flying, 6/6 mono black Elder Demon. At the beginning of your turn, corrupt 2 gems. Okay. When this creature attacks, if there are 3 or more corrupted gems, return the first creature from target graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Okay, that's good. If you can't, create 3 black Vampire Knight tokens. Okay. At the end of your turn, if this card's in your graveyard, return it to your hand. Alright. Okay, so these are the ones with Vampire Knights. Okay, so they're 1/1s, but they do have life link at least. So, yeah, pretty good card. Um, it's got a lot of relevant things on here, and I think I like everything it does. So, yeah, definitely a card worth playing. Signature Slam. The art on this is hilarious. 9 mana, spell card, seed a gem. Creatures you control get +5/+5, then deal X damage to each opposing creature. X is the amount of seed gems on the board. Okay. Um, I like the permanent +5/+5 buff. Seeding 1 gem is just okay. It's really kind of luck of the draw if you're going to actually be able to hit it. But it does hit your opponent's creatures. So I could see this being useful in certain objectives where you need to damage creatures. So I don't know, but you still need a lot of seed gems on the board. So I'm not sure. This might be a bad card, or just not that great. Getting +5/+5 to your creatures is fairly relevant. Um, but it's definitely not a top tier card, I don't think. Sowing Myco Spawn. So I guess I played this once. When this creature enters the battlefield, process 3. Fetch the first support card with from your library with mana value 9 or less. That card gains full mana. Okay, so I probably was playing this with ambiguity. When an improved gem is destroyed, increase all of your positive mana bonuses by 2 till end of turn up to 4. Okay. Um, yeah, there are some decent things that this card does for you. Um, but you need more ways to ingest gems if you're going to be using it. I think that was my issue with the card. I just didn't have enough um, cards ingesting anything for it to be worth using yet. So I'm putting this one on the shelf until I have more devoid gem makers. The Hunger Tide Rises. Here's another one I tried. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Create 3 Golgari insect tokens. Then you do it again. Oops. Why does it keep doing that? If you don't hit it exactly at the right place, then it will close the card, which is annoying. Okay, destroy all 3 creature tokens you control, then return the first creature card with base mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If you can't, first fetch the first creature card from your library with mana cost X. Put that card into play under your control. X is 10 plus the number of creatures destroyed this way, including their reinforcements. So this was meant to really pair with creatures, tokens, I say. Convert tokens um, to non-token creatures, basically is the point of this card. It's okay. I still need to play with it a lot more. But I think when we get Grist, the Planeswalker, this card will be a lot more useful for it. The Necrobloom. Creature plant, tricolor, 2/7. 12 mana, it's black, white, and green. Interesting color combo. Landfall, create 2 forest tokens. Then if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, forest creatures you control gain leyline. Okay. So I like the landfall creating 2 forest tokens. I think that's probably the more relevant part of this card. I do wish it was a support. I don't think it just being a creature justifies a whole creature slot for you. But yeah, it could be alright. But I don't know. It seems pretty weak for me. Thief of Existence. 12 mana, 3/4 creature, Eldrazi, green. When this creature enters the battlefield, exile the first opposing non token creature. Okay. Then if that creature's base power is 5 or less, ingest 5. Okay. When this creature dies, your opponent draws a card. Okay. Don't know why they need to put that little downside. But ingesting 5, but exiling that excuse me. Um yeah, that ETB is pretty solid, especially for green that doesn't usually have cards like this that have that effect. So that alone might get it played for me, depending on what type of deck I'm building. But yeah, I think I like this card. Titan's Vanguard. Creature Eldrazi. It is a 5/5 for 22 mana, but it's got trample and it is dual color. So let's see. When this creature enters the battlefield or attacks, creatures you control get +X +X. X is this creature's power, then ingest 2. Okay, that actually is good. Because, yeah, it's a 5/5, so it's going to get that buff, so it's already going to be a 10/10. So that's all right. But your other creatures are going to get a 10/10. You put haste on this guy, and then your creatures are going to get +10/+10 that first time you play it. So, yeah, this is a pretty good card, I think. You just got to find a way of getting it out easier than putting 22 mana into it. Although in green that's a little less relevant, but still 22 mana for a creature is always going to be a bit of a hindrance no matter what type of deck you're building, because you just never know with RNG. Tune the Narrative. 12 mana, spell card with flash, it's blue. Draw a card, energize X. X is half that card's mana value, rounded down. Okay. Then gain Y mana. Y is the number of energized gems on the board. Okay. This is a playable card, I think. It's uh yeah, it's similar in effect to Cut Your Losses, I think, because it's a spell card that will gain you a certain amount of mana. It's going to be a little bit variable, but if you play certain type of cards with this deck, or with this card in your deck, um, if you're playing, I would play this with Jace Reawaken, because you're going to be playing a lot more high cost cards with him. And so that means this card is probably going to give you a decent amount of mana when you play it. It's definitely not as good as Cut Your Losses, don't get me wrong. But I think this card definitely has a place for certain decks. So definitely keep an eye out for it. Unstable Amulet. When the support enters the board, energize 3. Overload 1, deal 3 damage to a random opposing target. Then draw a card. That card gains half its mana. Okay. That's actually pretty good. Yeah, for Overload 1, um, that's really not going to be difficult to hit. You may be able to even do it multiple times a turn. So, if you're drawing a card and giving one half its mana, that's actually pretty good. For 7 mana, it's a 3/3. I mean, it's a 3 shield support. So, yeah, I think this one will be worth playing with, especially if you're playing it in decks that have a lot of sources to energize. Voltstorm Angel. 16 mana, 4/4, mono white, with Flying Angel. When this creature enters the battlefield, energize 5. Okay. Overload 1, this creature gains lifelink until the beginning of your next turn. Okay. Overload 2, this creature gains double strike until the beginning of your next turn. Alright. Overload 3, all your creatures get +3/+3. Yeah, this reminds me a lot of that vehicle we got from Kaladesh, that colorless vehicle that gets lifelink when you overload. Yeah, this is just like kind of a better version of that card. A little bit more expensive, but I think the actual utility of it is a little bit stronger. And I like that it energizes 5. This will actually help hit objectives in like emergency ordinances and all that, for example, right then and there, just because a lot of those, the objectives are to energize 5 gems. So just playing this card will hit that for you. So keep an eye out for this one if you like playing that event, or even if you don't and you just like getting the rewards from that event, because that's kind of how a lot of those legacy events are these days, aren't they? Warren Soul Trader, I played this a little bit. Zombie Goblin Wizard, 3/3 for 10 mana, mono black. When a token creature you control dies or loses a reinforcement, create a gold token. So yeah, I was pairing this with Knowledge is Power, because you're going to be gaining reinforcements and losing them. So it's cool. When a non-token support you control loses shield, create a goblin token. Um, yeah, the goblin token part wasn't as relevant for me, but it was, I think, pretty easy to create a lot of gold tokens when I was trying it. I should use it a little bit more, but yeah, great card to pair with Knowledge is Power for that reason. Wheel of Potential. Energize 4. It's a spell card. Okay, so we're already energizing 4 right away. 10 mana. Discard all cards without mana from your hand. Then draw that many cards. Those cards gain X mana. X is the number of energized gems on the board. Okay. Yeah, I think that this could be a pretty good little combo card. Because you're going to be, depending on what type of cards you're playing with it. Yeah, I think this might have some looping potential there, depending on what type of card you're pairing it with. This with Brass's Tunnel Grinder. Yeah, that will be something worth trying. Definitely has a good upside to it, and just gotta find a way to energize a lot. But if you're chaining a few of these together, you're going to be energizing a lot. So I think this is going to be a very relevant card. White of the Reliquary. There's a Knight of the Reliquary, but now there's a White of the Reliquary. 10 mana, 2/2 with Vigilance. We haven't seen Vigilance on a lot of cards in this set, actually. It's a green and black zombie knight. At the beginning of your turn, this creature gets +X/+X. X is the number of creatures in your graveyard up to 4. Okay. When a non-token creature you control dies or loses a reinforcement, convert 2 gems to black. Okay, this is going to be another one you're going to want to pair with Knowledge is Power, because you're going to be converting those gems to black, and that's going to be getting you lots of mana. Especially if you're running a lot of card draw when you're doing that. So, yeah, this definitely has a space in certain decks of mine. Windswept Teeth. This is the white or green land. Winter Moon. Artifact. When your opponent converts gems during their turn, ingest 1. When you match the support's gem by swap, process 3. Decrease all colored mana bonuses of your opponent's planeswalker by 1 until the beginning of your next turn. That's seen. Well, I don't know. How many times how many gems is it going to convert when your opponent converts gems? Is it just one? Um, is it just going to convert one gem to a void gem, or is it going to convert equal to the amount of gems converted. Um, I own this card, so I should try it, but I need to play an opponent who's going to be converting gems. So, um, I don't know. There's a lot that um, I don't know. The effect, you have to jump through a lot of hoops for a very kind of negligible effect. But I don't know. It will really depend on how many gems are ingested when your opponent converts gems. I should try this card. I don't know. I just haven't really been motivated to try this card. It just doesn't seem that good. Wooded Foothills is a sport card land. And here's the last card that you can get out of normal packs. But we'll look at some of the exclusively exclusive cards in a sec here. 12 mana for a 6/6 creature with lifelink and death touch. So that's actually pretty good already, even without anything else. Creature Phyrexian Worm. When this creature dies, your creatures get +2/+2 and gain death touch and lifelink. Okay. So part of me just wants to self-sacrifice this creature and then just give your creatures death touch and lifelink. That is really good. Yeah, this is a good card. I definitely want to use this card. It's a relevant creature just on its own, and when it dies, it really benefits your other creatures. So, um, yeah, good on it. I like it. Pretty good card to finish that part of our review here, but let's look at any cards that I had not looked at. Yeah, so there is Coalition Victory. This card is already causing problems for some people. Um, so this is an exclusive card that you can only get from the collector box bundle in the vault right now. They did this for the Lotus cards as well. This is the only way you can get these cards. But they made these worth chasing. So Coalition Victory. Your opponent discards 3 cards. Exile all opposing spree. So this is spree, if you remember correctly, the spree count um, uh, increases from every gem match. So spree 1, your opponent discards 3 cards. That's already pretty rough. Spree 3, exile all opposing creatures. Spree 5, create a victory banner token. Spree 5 is pretty hard to get to in most cases, but it's not impossible, especially if you build for it. Um, but it's a little bit difficult to get there for the most part. You're going to be spending a lot of mana, and you're hopefully going to be hitting this Spree 5. But if you do, you get a good payoff because you get the Victory Banner. It's a support card, artifact, 6 shields. At the beginning of your turn, the last 4 cards in your hand gain full mana. When you make a match 5, draw 5 cards. That is pretty solid. Yeah, I heard a few people losing to this card already, and I could see why. It's very strong, and it's all colors, so you can cheat it out fairly easily. Let's see. I think I could find them by putting the full art. What else have I not looked at? I think we looked at Olamog, Harrogast, Erupting Nullkite. Yes, I think we looked at this one before. There was a couple other ones. Oh yeah, Ocelot Pride. We have to talk about this card because um, at the beginning of your turn, enlist 2 gems. And when you gain life during your turn, create 3 Ajani Soldier tokens. The fact that there's no cap on that is very problematic. At the end of your turn, reinforce each token creature you control. But there are ways to easily gain life continuously during your turn. And with no cap on this, you're just going to be not only creating those soldier tokens, but then there are cards that let you gain life by creating tokens. So that's creating a sinister little damage loop that's um, making things really difficult on certain people. I haven't run into this um, combo yet, but it's one that is a problem and should be addressed in some way. Um, is there anything else? I can't remember. Well, let's actually just look at the vault and see what comes in those packs. I probably should have just did this to begin with. The vault. Okay, so here we go. Here are the cards that um, are exclusive to this pack. Support card artifact, 20 mana. It is a masterpiece. 6 shields. At the beginning of your turn, if the support shield value is even, gain an extra swamp. Oh. Then your creatures gain double strike. Okay, that's pretty solid. Otherwise, opposing creatures gain double strike until the beginning of your next turn. Then the support loses 1 shield. When this support is destroyed, destroy all gems. Okay, so that's an interesting design idea where you kind of trade off from who gets um, the double strike. So it can be a little risky, but it is an interesting card for sure. Wheel of Fortune, 15 mana masterpiece spell card, mono red. Each player discards all cards that can be discarded from the hand, draw 6 cards. For each card discarded this way, deal 3 damage to each opposing creature. Oh man, there's so many better ways of dealing damage to your opposing creatures than um, discarding and drawing that way. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't really like using this card. But then again, I'm not paying for it, so I never will. Sandstorm, 20 mana spell card with flash, green. Deal X damage to each opposing creature and for each of its reinforcements. Deal X damage to your opponent's planeswalker. X is the number of green gems on the board. 20 mana spell, though, is a little bit steep for that. Um, you don't always have a lot of green gems on the board, so if you play this at the wrong time, you're not going to be doing a lot to your opponent. So um, it's a little too dependent on RNG to be really useful for me personally. I would say the main reason to buy this pack is to get coalition victory, and then I guess you get other cards that come with it, or is that the only? What do you get from buying this? Yeah, it's the only way to get these 4 cards is by buying this. So, seems like a lot of money to spend on that, just for those 4 cards. But I've already seen people do that. The collector's box. This is interesting. So you get a lot of different cards from this pack. This is a great way if you're into this set and want to get started on your collection, get a big jump start on your collection. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15 cards for $95. Yeah, I'll leave it up to you to decide if that's something that you find worth it. But if you have the money and you pay a lot into this game already, it might be worth pausing your VIP or something for a couple months to pick this up instead. And especially if you already have most of everything that you wanted in standard. So this will give you a way of getting other cards that you wouldn't, that would make it harder to get otherwise, because you can't use VIP to get these cards at all unless you buy them with crystals. So yeah, that's how I feel about Puzzle Masters 2. There are, overall, I would say it's a pretty good set. I haven't seen a lot of staples, like really like good utility cards, but there are a lot of fun looking cards in it. I don't, other than the Ocelot Pride, I don't see anything that's too overpowered. Coalition Victory is probably very overpowered, but it is locked behind a paywall. It's going to be very hard to run into that card because I just not a lot of people are going to be paying $60 for this for those cards. So if you do, you're probably just very unlucky. But yeah, there we go. So let me know what you guys think of the set, and yeah, I will be back soon with a review of Soren Ravenous Neonate.